Now back to basketball coming up tonight. We've had a few days to think about it. Time to get down to the nitty-gritty of filling out your bracket, if you haven't. But the first question is, are you going to go all chalk? Are you going to go what Fritzy? Fritzy does that every year. I'm going to take the number one seed and then the number one seed, number one seed, number one seed.
And I end up finishing like tied for second or third, and that feeds my need to go with a lot of the favorites.
You know, Gonzaga enters the tournament as a legit favorite. They're undefeated, loaded with talent, got a one and done on that team. Number one overall seeds, though, don't normally win. Last time we had a team do that, 2013, it was the Louisville Cardinals. After Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois look outstanding, and that would surprise no one if they reach the Final Four. Michigan has had some health issues, but Juwan Howard's Wolverines are still a very dangerous team. And the tricky part is you're not going to win if you go all chalk normally, right? The key is picking an upset. There's always an outlier, and let's face it, you need a lot of luck, not a little. But that's why the guy who watched the most college basketball doesn't win the bracket contest. You have one more day to figure it all out, so good luck. I feel like I know less because I watched more basketball. And, you know, we don't have that marquee player or players. Gonzaga is a really good team. Obviously, they're undefeated. But, you know, they're not in the ACC or the SEC or the Big Ten. You don't get to see them on a regular basis unless you seek them out, and then you watch them and you realize they do have everything. You know, they have really good players. I mentioned they got a one and done. They got leadership there. They've been in a title game before, and they have a coach who's been there a long, long time. One of the most successful coaches, and as far as winning percentage, the best winning percentage in college basketball history. Mark Few. But we know that there's magic that happens. We know there's upset, surprises. There's disappointment. There's going to be 1, 2, 3 of those games where you go, how did that just happen? But that's college basketball. You put them in a bubble, and you're going to have even more craziness. And it feels like every year I say the same thing. Oh, man, this year is going to be crazy. And then next year I'll say the same thing. But you're in a bubble. That adds to the craziness here because Georgia Tech just lost its best player, the ACC Player of the Year, out for the first 2 games if they survive the first round. Like that's how crazy this has been. And then you have the coaching vacancies that are also thrown in there. You're in Indiana. Indiana's not playing, but the job at Indiana is open. And I've been going back and forth with a source this morning about what's going on at Indiana. And my source said to me this morning, was told Scott Drew will not be the next head coach at Indiana. He's Baylor's head coach. He's from Indiana. His dad was a legendary coach at Valparaiso. And then I followed up. I say, well, who do you think would be the front runner at Indiana? And my source said, well, you know, probably somebody with ties to Bobby Knight. The new athletic director is a former Bob Knight manager and will connect with former players. You got Tony Bennett at Virginia is the name that I was told. Chris Beard, he's at Texas Tech. Brad Stevens is on the list, but he's not going to be on the list because he said, look, I love it. I have ties there. It's emotional for me. I have friends and family. He's the coach of the Celtics. Bennett would be great because, according to my source, his dad, and his dad was a legendary coach, Wisconsin, Green Bay, a few places. But his dad and Bob Knight were great friends. But, as my source said, Tony Bennett's sister was the women's coach at Indiana, and she was fired.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of things that are going on there. You know, if you're Brad Stevens, if this was another year, maybe next year, depending on what happens this year, then maybe that would be something you would be interested in. But it's now. And I don't know. You know, Beard did a great job getting his team to the Final Four a couple of years ago, title game. But, you know, he's at Texas Tech. He's done a great job down there. But it feels like it's somebody with ties to Bob Knight who's going to get this job at Indiana. I don't know if it's Dane Fife. He's at Michigan State. I mean, he's the associate head coach. He's another guy. He played, for Bob Knight in Indiana. that would be kind of the sleeper one for me. John Beilein, who coached at Michigan and then went to the Cavaliers and then got fired there. That's another name to keep an eye on. But he's in his late 60s. I don't know if that's what you want to do at Indiana. But you're going to have a lot of different names because it is still a coveted job. But I don't know if you're going to get who you think you're going to get. A lot of times when you're in a bubble, you think your job is so great and so big and so important and so many people are going to be applying for it. Indiana hadn't done anything in a long time. Now, maybe that's the time to come in and take over. You know, Archie Miller came in after doing a great job at Dayton, and he washed out after 4 years. And they had to pay a big buyout, reportedly like $10 million just to get rid of him. But Steve Alford, who said he wasn't interested, is not on the list from what I'm told. But, you know, legendary Indiana player, not on the list. Yeah, Paul.
That's the guy I was going to bring up. It didn't feel like a decade and a half ago, it was destiny that Steve Alford would one day coach. And he would be at Iowa, and it didn't work out, the timing. And he had a pretty good run at Iowa. And then New Mexico and UCLA, and it just never timed out. And now Alford's not even close to hot anymore. And it felt like Jim Harbaugh, that someday he would go back.
Well, you have him at Nevada, but he hasn't really done anything.
Right.
And he took over for Musselman, who's done a great job at Arkansas. But that's sort of what's happening, you know, with basketball in Indiana, and then there's the opening at IU.